Brian Lehrer on WNYC, live from the Green Space today. By the way, since we were just talking about the Gorsuch hearings, I'll just mention that right after our show at noon today, we're going to give you a choice. You can listen to the Leonard Lopate Show on WNYC as usual, or on WNYC's Facebook page. We'll go live with WNYC's Jamie Floyd and legal analyst Ellie Mistal. They will follow today's hearings and take your questions. So that'll be Facebook Live video today at noon on the WNYC's Facebook page on the Gorsuch hearings if you're interested. My next guest is comedian Mo Amer, whose biggest claim to fame, besides being funny on Colbert this month, might be that he's probably the only Kuwaiti-born Muslim-American refugee named Mohammed to find himself, by chance, sitting next to Eric Trump on an airplane. Here is part of how he told that story on That Late Show on CBS.
Speaking of, I recently took a flight with Eric Trump. Not on purpose, it just happened. I didn't know he was going to be in the plane. Might have showed up in your social media feeds. But I do know one thing. The lady who upgraded me into that seat was certainly a Clinton supporter. 100%. 100%. She was like, oh, Eric Trump is on my flight? Is that what you're telling me? Oh, there's an empty seat next to Eric, is there, huh? Let me take a look at this upgrade list, see who's waiting patiently to be upgraded. Oh, Mohammed Mustafa Emma, upgrade! Hell, what's that? Because I've taken hundreds of flights and I've never been greeted with such enthusiasm prior to boarding an aircraft as a Mohammed flying out of New York. Has never happened. I walk up trying to scan my boarding pass. She's like, guess who's been upgraded? I was like, what is this, a rap battle? I walk into the plane, I see what I was like, is that Eric Trump? No, it can't be. I put up my bag, took a second look, and I saw his name on his sweater. Definitely was Eric. So I knew what to do next. I just sat next to him and I said, Salaam alaikum, Eric. How you doing? How are you, man? Like, my name is Mohammed. I'm Muslim, and I came here as a refugee. We made it, mama. You know what I mean?
Please welcome live to the Green Space, Mo Amer.
Thank you for having me.
So that worked, right? I could see you enjoying the replay.
I was enjoying, it's really surreal. Number one, to have you say what put me on the map was Eric Trump is very infuriating inside. Because you want to be known for your art. I've toured with Chappelle and still tour with Chappelle. Like, I've been doing comedy for 17 years in 30 countries and never saw it coming that Eric Trump would be the thing to make everything else pop off. I didn't see that one happening.
First Colbert in front of millions, now the Green Space with like 100 people here. Is it enough to even give you performance anxiety?
I can't handle this. This is way too much pressure. Comedians can't perform before noon. This is outrageous. They're like, you want to do some comedy? It's like, it's not even the sun. Who wakes up at this time anyway? She's yawning in the front. The guy over there looks like his girlfriend made him come here. Like, he's just sitting there fighting for his life right now, I feel like.
And the Eric Trump story was true?
100% true, yeah. How do you make that up,
How did you even recognize him? I actually don't think I would recognize
He really
Eric
had his
Trump.
name on his sweater.
No.
It's true. You want to see the photo? I have one.
The logo?
Who walks around with his name on his sweater? It's got to be him. I mean, initially I thought it was Gary Busey. And then I looked over again, and I was like, that is definitely Eric Trump.
And you were flying from New York to where?
I was going to Glasgow. I was heading to Glasgow. I was on a 25-city tour in Scotland and England. It was the first night was going to be in Scotland. Yeah,
So
Glasgow.
that's like a 5-hour flight, 6-hour flight, something like that, right?
Yeah, well, you got the wind behind you when you're going east, so yeah, it was about 5.5.
Was your head exploding the whole time, trying to sort out what you really wanted to say from what you should say?
No, I immediately jumped into it. I knew what I had to say. Yeah, I didn't want to, I stepped right into it. You know, it's just I looked at him. I said, "Salam alaikum." I really did. I said, "Salam alaikum, brother. My name is Muhammad. I'm Muslim and I'm a comedian. This is a fantastic situation for me. Thank you for joining me this evening on this flight." And he was like, "What? What's going on?" And I said, "Look, man, we're not doing any Muslim ID cards. Okay, it's outrageous. A couple of expletives." And I was like, "Yo, we're not doing that." He was like, "What? You shouldn't believe everything that you read." And then I was like, "You don't read." And then I showed him, I was like, "You want me to show you a clip of your father saying this exact same information?" He goes, "No, man, you can't believe this stuff. We're not going to do that." And of course, I didn't take it literally like he has any control, first of all, in anything he has to do. I just thought it was really fun to try to make him uncomfortable. You know, it's one of the things you could do in stand-up is not only make people think, make them laugh, but also, you know, make them uncomfortable a little bit is what I like to do. And I just jumped into it, but he was cool. He wanted to talk about golf and...
Which is, I'm guessing, why he went to Scotland?
That's exactly why he was heading to Scotland.
Really?
Yeah,
to golf?
Well, he went there to... I don't know if he went there to actually play. Probably did, but he flew in just to check in on their number one golf course, apparently.
And to thank them for voting for Brexit.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait, Scotland voted against Brexit.
Yeah, and they did. That's right.
It's funny because you really went there. Because usually, you know, minorities in any culture have these dual narratives. I don't have to tell you. Sometimes it's called code switching. Like the thing you're really...
consciousness.
Yeah, and the thing you're really thinking versus what you're allowed to say without being marginalized. But you broke through that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really spend too much time thinking about what other people are going to think or what's going to happen. And one thing that Chappelle taught me was, man, let them criticize the villain. You know, you go out there and be the villain that you despise and let them criticize the villain. Like, say things that you're normally afraid to say or communicate and just let it sit there and see what happens. You can't sit there and worry about what people think, what are they going to do. You know, my whole life... My mom has told me, like, don't talk about politics. They're going to send us back, you know? This is the whole thing. She's afraid of that. My father was, you know, had to go through so much when we left the Gulf War in 90. And our whole life has been, shh, don't say anything. Shh, don't say anything. For so long, finally, I became a citizen. I was like, I got a lot of things to say. I'm American now, dang it. I have rule, you know, I have America behind me. I can say freedom of speech, blah, 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 blah. You know, I can do whatever I want. Somebody who's been interrogated in over 20 countries because I had a refugee travel document. I guess they didn't anticipate refugees to tour the world as successful comedians, but it worked out for me that way. And it was just really, really difficult where every single place that you were flying into, follow your line, please, you know, follow your line, go into that room, wait until so-and-so comes in. It's just really, really stressful to constantly live with that. So when I became a citizen, I was like, yo, I am going to say what's on my mind, and people need to know what immigrants and refugees go through, and I'm going to be super honest about it. So.
And then Donald Trump gets elected because white people in Wisconsin think you're the ones with the special privileges.
Right. Let me tell you something, man. Donald Trump getting elected is going to make us all culturally rich. I really, really believe that. You know, maybe by accident in the way it's happening, but everybody's so intrigued. I mean, white guilt is an all-time high right now. I'm getting applause for just saying I'm Muhammad on stage. That's never happened. It was like, hey guys, my name is Muhammad. Yes! Good to see you, Muhammad. I'm like, what? This is great, you know?
So you came from Kuwait. What were the circumstances of that?
So my parents are Palestinian. I was born in Kuwait. My father was a telecommunications engineer in Kuwait. Rest in peace. He passed away in 95. But yeah, that's where we lived. That's where we grew up. My father had a great job at the Kuwaiti Oil Company and was a big part of why wireless communication was brought there, and he actually brought one of the first radio stations in Kuwait's history there. So yeah, so we had my father was very, very smart, and my whole family was highly educated, and then next thing you know, we went from millionaires to nothing overnight, onto a school bus through Baghdad to Jordan to Houston, Texas, where I ended up.
So when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait to take the oil, and your father worked for an oil company in 1990, this affected your family personally?
I'd say so, Brian. It When we saw the
I'm really
tanks
good at
rolling in,
deductive reasoning that way.
when we saw the tanks rolling in, we're like, hey, there's something off here. It was really, really traumatic to see. You always see your parents in control. You always see them empowered and ready to go and with a strategy in place and executing that strategy. And then you see that's not the case. Everybody else is frantic, lost everything, and they're just strategizing on how to get out of there and putting cars in front of windows so we don't get broken into and siphoning gas from vehicles. Like, it was crazy. Like, so many things were going on at the same time. As a 9-year-old kid, it was difficult to digest.
But that got rolled back, that invasion of Kuwait, within a matter of months. So it was not okay to go back? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, it was not okay to go back. My father was very loose with his political opinion, and that was not okay. As a matter of fact, my father... I found this out recently because, they conceal so much from a 9-year-old kid. But my father, because he had his own political opinion, he was actually taken by Kuwaiti authorities and they did really horrible things to him because they thought he was a spy. And he wasn't. He was just an engineer and liked to talk about politics. So that, to me, is very powerful. And it's very important as a comedian for me now to say things that my dad wanted to say, and I can say them, and people can and laugh with me and think with me about those positions.
That's really good. And I've thought, in all seriousness, for a long time that 9/11 wouldn't have happened probably if Bush 41 didn't unnecessarily invade Iraq when Iraq invaded Kuwait. I thought it was a war for oil and not enough of our business, and we weren't upholding human rights anywhere where there wasn't oil in that kind of way. But most Americans think of that as the good Iraq war. They forget that it was a much closer vote in Congress than the second Iraq war. As a Kuwaiti there at the time, or for your parents, were they rooting for the Americans to come in because look what Saddam Hussein is doing to us?
Well, first of all, we're Palestinians in Kuwait. We weren't considered Kuwaitis, right? That was the problem. If we were Kuwaitis, we'd be just fine.
Were you considered your parents guest workers? Because I've heard they're treated really badly in the Gulf states, the Palestinian guest workers.
Yeah, initially after the first Gulf War, pre-Gulf War, it was just fine. Post-Gulf War, it was really difficult. And many years, from what I understand, again, I'm a Estonian, Texan, so I know now that it's totally different than it was before. Initially, it was definitely very, very difficult. But to go back to your point regarding the war itself, were they excited about it? I really don't know because I ended up coming over. I spent 2 months in that situation in the initial invasion because they came in August. And I was supposed to get my tonsils out 2 days later. So I was terrified of that. I was like, whew, at least I don't have to get my tonsils removed. It's such a 9-year-old thought, right? We have nothing. At least I keep my tonsils.
And then you wound up in Houston?
I ended up in Houston. Yeah, my brother was getting his PhD there. So it was just a natural, I guess, move to go to Houston. I didn't know, Brian. I just got on the bus and did what my parents told me to do. But to go back, I was trying to remember what you were asking about.
Oh, well, I was asking you if your parents were kind of rooting for the Americans to invade.
Right. I'm not sure what they were feeling at that time. Honestly, I've never asked them that question, but I'm sure they were relieved to have it be over because I know when I left, they lit the rigs, the oil rigs, and that was really, really traumatic. And spent that many days. Yeah, it was very, very difficult to process. I mean, noon looked like 2 a.m. and it was for weeks and weeks. But I do know one thing though. After I started, I did a lot of USO tours. I did a lot of like MWR, mental welfare and recreation for U.S. troops in many different parts without even having a citizenship yet, actually. In Japan, Korea, Guam, and I started realizing, it's like, man, America is everywhere. Like, wow. When I was in Okinawa, I was like, 70% of Okinawa is U.S. soil? What? And I just went to so many different places. Like, how many bases is there? Ramstein, Germany is the biggest concentration of Americans outside of the States. So it's like a little American city. I'm like, man, we are occupying the entire world. This is, wow, very impressive. And then I started thinking, like, oh, hold on a second. We didn't have a presence in the Middle East. I think it was a great excuse to play Saddam as a tool and to have a presence. And ever since the first Gulf War in 1990 happened, we've had a really, really strong presence in the Middle East, and we've never left.
At 11 o'clock, this is WNYC FM HD and AM New York, WNJT FM 88.1 Trenton, WNJP 88.5 Sussex, WNJY 89.3 Netcong, and WNJO 90.3 Toms River. New York and New Jersey Public Radio. Brian Lehrer live in the green space this morning. We have a few minutes left with comedian Mo Amer. Let's get back to comedy.
That sounded like a code, by the way.
It is.
Sound like the FBI is going to roll in here any second. He said the magic words.
I said 88.5 Sussex. Uh-oh!
I didn't do it.
We just have a few minutes left before the news. Do different audiences in different places laugh at different things?
Yeah, I mean, I always get surprised that some people will laugh at the setup. I'm like, hey, guys, you're not ready yet. Punchline's coming. And that's also very, very confusing. But for the most part, yeah, I don't have any problems, and that never is an issue.
Like you've toured a lot as an opening act for Dave Chappelle.
Yes.
Right? What are his audiences like compared to, say, being on Colbert and the audience that was there live for that?
Well, I mean, touring with Chappelle is one of the most freeing things as a stand-up comedian because it offers me a platform where I can literally say anything, and they expect it, and they look forward to it, and they want to hear about social commentary, and it's very, very exciting to open up for Dave, you know? And I was touring with Dave when the Orlando shooting happened, and the next day I'm performing in Oklahoma City. I'm like, great, and usually my opening line is, hey guys, my name is Mo, short from I was surprised, today's the day, So I couldn't open with that one the next day. Just wasn't too sensitive. But I ended up, having a very honest and real discussion on stage. And it worked out really lovely. So it's just very freeing working with Dave.
So our newscaster, Shamita Basu, who'll be on in just a minute, is part Iranian and brought the whole audience Iranian cookies and tea for the Persian New Year. Which
sounds
is
like
now.
a trap. No, I'm just kidding.
Did you get any on the way in?
No, I did not, but I will join it. Because I made bad decisions yesterday at the mini bar, so I was trying to avoid cookies. I ate the second Rice Krispie treat, and I was like, man, I shouldn't have done that.
That was about $8.50, right, at the mini bar?
That's about it. That's probably the cheap end, hopefully.
And Iranians, before we bring on Shamita with the news, are not Arabs. Persians are a different ethnicity.
You're right, that's correct.
Do you think Donald Trump knows that?
I think Donald Trump just barely found out he has a big toe. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't think he knows.
Do you think Eric Trump knew that?
I don't think Eric Trump knows that either.
Last question.
I sincerely don't.
Is it harder or easier to be funny since the election?
It's been sensational. I think I'm going to be very wealthy because of Donald Trump.
And are you making stuff up every day? Like while most people watched the hearings yesterday with like wild horses stampeding through their brains.
Yeah, it does
Were
that
you
for me
crafting
too.
laugh lines?
No, I cry first. While I'm watching anything with the administration, I usually cry deeply inside and my heart hurts and bleeds. And then I eventually find the comedy. Because you can't find good comedy without being really depressed first. Once you're really depressed and you really tap into that depression, you can find some gold.
I know you're at the Comedy Cellar a lot. You have anything coming up in the city you want to promote?
No, I'm at the Cellar all the time. Come by and see me there. And hope to see you guys on the road, wherever you are.
Please thank Mo Amer.